I'll pull up some swings. I'll pull up Keegan Bradley just to pull up somebody. And show you what it does for those of you that don't have one. So let's see, this is the first one. Sorry. So what the K-Vest does is it has a sensor around your pelvis, around your hips. It sits in the back of your hips, like this, just below your belt. It has one shoulder harness where this sits right at the top of the shoulder blades. It has an arm harness that goes right on the arm, and then a hand sensor that goes on the glove, like this, okay? And so it measures, what it does is it measures your rotation of all of those units, your bends, forwards and back, and side bend. So it measures all three planes of motion, okay? So this is Keegan Bradley. So this is the top of the backswing, this line. This is impact. And so basically what they're measuring is how efficient your golf swing is, because I'll show you some that aren't as good as this. So this is the start, address position, start of the backswing, and so forth. And so basically they all start together, and the hands have farther to go, then the shoulders have farther to go than the hips, and the hips have less far to go. So everything's going a little bit farther as it goes back. As it starts down, so the top of the backswing measures once any body part starts changing directions. So this transition, the top of the backswing, the hips go first. You can see that they're on this side of the line, and then the hips, this is the rotation of the hips. So the hips rotate. When they get square, okay, they start to slow down. They start to decelerate. And so what happens is once they start to decelerate, the shoulders are thrown off of the hips until they start to decelerate. And then the hands are thrown off of the shoulders until they decelerate, and then the club is thrown off of the hands. Okay, so what you want, this is a pretty good deal. So what you want are hips to peak first, to lead first and peak first, shoulders to lead second and peak second, hands and arms to lead third and peak third, to start third and peak third. And you want these to be sharp. The sharper these angles are, the faster the body will move. You can't accelerate any faster, you can decelerate. And so it measures that acceleration, deceleration. And so this is pretty good. This is a typical efficient example. And what you'd see is the hips would reach square about halfway between the top of the backswing and impact. And then the shoulders follow that, and then the hands follow that. And then we've got an arm sensor that, when I did Keegan, we didn't have the arm sensor, so we don't have the arm sensor with him. The arm sensor is in between that, so it would be, you can see where it does the same thing. And so then you look at the speeds. So the transition sequence, transition means from the top of the backswing, which goes first. So you obviously want hip, shoulders, hands, and he's got hip, shoulders, hands. And then you want them peaking in the same order, hips, shoulders, hands. And then these are the speeds. These are the peak speeds. They're the speeds the hips go. So this is PGA Tour range, degrees of rotation per second. So Keegan's right in the low end a little bit on that. And then this is the shoulder speed, and then degrees per second, and then this is the hand speed. So you can see as he got closer out to the club, he got faster with his part. So he did a very good job of transferring his energy. So what we look for here is to have a speed gain of over 1.5 is what we're looking for. A transfer of energy of over 1.5. And so he's got from hips to shoulders, he's got 1.7 degrees increase. From shoulders to hands, he's got 2.6. So the hands are really fast. He's got a lot of lag with deceleration. And so we look at that first. That's the first thing that we look at. And so this one obviously is real good. So let me go show you that. You'd say, okay, well, he's got a perfect swing. Well, then you go look at the summary. These are the positions. And so his alignment at address is 11 degrees open. Okay, so everybody's open, or pretty close to open, but he's way open with his hips. So that's something that he would need to work on. His posture at address is too bent over. So you watch Keegan swing, right? So he looks really bent over. Okay, so this was something that we worked on, trying to get him to be a little bit taller. His hips were good. His upper body was aligned well. His lower body was bent correctly. That's how much his hips are bent. That's how much his shoulders are bent at address. Okay, so this is pelvis position at the top. Okay, so this is pelvis turn, so how much the hips are turned on the backswing. Okay, and this is pelvis side bend, so that's like the angle of your belt. How many degrees is your belt angled like that? That'd be pelvis side bend, how much it's bent to the side like that. And so they have ranges in here, so 4 to 13 angle bent. If somebody's turned a lot more, they're going to have a deeper angle. If somebody's turned less, they're going to have a less angle. The more you go, the more your belt shifts like that. The less you go, the belt shifts like that. So it's a way of helping with that. Not quite enough hip turn. The tour range hip turn on the backswing is 30 to 46 degrees. Okay, so he's 26, so he's underturned his hips a little bit. But if you look, these are the turns. He's got 76 degrees of shoulder turn. So he's got 50 degrees of difference between shoulder turn and hip turn, which is a lot. That's a real speed producer, is your X factor and your X factor stretch. You've got to have one or the other. And then you can see how open he is at impact. So he's way open at impact. He's 55 degrees open with his hips, tour range 35 to 50. And he's 39 degrees open with his shoulders. So when you see this, you go, oh, that's a little too much. But when you see this, you go, that's okay. Because what happens with it, what you're looking for, as the player starts down, the hips are going first, okay? And that creates a little bit of a stretch in your upper body. And then from that point on, the hips are accelerating, decelerating. You're trying to get the shoulders to catch them. You want them to slam the door. You want them to catch up. So you don't want to continue dragging that around. That's a lack of stability when you see that, where they don't ever decelerate enough to allow that to close. So you're looking for something in here between 10 and 15 degrees difference between the shoulders and the hips. And so this isn't bad. 16 degrees is not bad when you've got that much rotation. And so that's what we're looking for. Now, the great thing about K-Vest is, so let's say you have this student. So you can go in there and they have, although let me pull up somebody who's more recent. This is a mini tour player. Oh, well, I can't do it because I'm not hooked up. But you can go in there, all of these red numbers that you see up there, they have drills and feedback where you can put people in the right position, and it'll give auditory feedback and visual feedback. So you could get in there and say, okay, Keegan, you're 2-turn, let's go back here like this, and you'd hear a sound that would tell him when he's correct. or you can tell him where he's aligned at address. If his hips are too open, he'll bring them back until, and so it gives you great feedback to get a feel for what it feels like, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to fix. And you can set, if you don't like what they put in there, you can put whatever you want in there. So you can set it live. So you can put the guy right where you want him, and then set live, and then when he gets in that position, then you'll get feedback on it. So that's the best use of it, is that you can create this to help people feel where they should be, as opposed to just telling them or showing them on video, but they can actually feel what it's like when they're using this. And so I'll go back to Keegan. So after we look at the swing summary numbers, let's see, let me go down. I got one more to show you. So this is the pelvis movement, upper body movement. So this is pelvis bend at address. This is how much bend that sensor is bent over right here underneath my hips. At the top of the backswing, okay, so 11 to 23, so what that means is he's got too much forward bend in his hips at the top of the backswing. And that happens because he doesn't have as much hip turn. So if you increase his hip turn a little bit, then that would start to create some extension into his back and get rid of some of that over crouch at the top of the backswing. Is what you're looking for. At impact, how much bend you have at impact. So what happens is, at address you're bent over, all right? As you go back, you start straightening up. So you say, oh, well, you don't want to straighten up. So what happens is you start extending in your spine to now where your back is straight up like this. So I'm straight up. If I turned around this way, I'd look like this, okay? But you trade that, so you're not standing up like this, so you trade that for how much you're bent this way, for left side bend. So if I stay in my posture and turn, this is straight, I'm straight here, but I'm bent here. And then as I start back down into the swing, I go back into forward bend. Okay, so I'm bending over, going back into impact, and as I start to rotate this way, I start straightening up again like this. So this is extending, and then this is bending sideways over here like this. So you see people that have more rotation, they have a more side bend because the shoulder just keeps going down, 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 down until it reaches its lowest point, and then it starts to come back up again. And so when you look at these numbers, we know Keegan's too bent over at address. This is another number at the top, upper body bend. So what happens is that if you stayed bent over the same amount at the top of the backswing, you'd look like that. Okay, so nobody's bent like that. So as you go back, people that draw the ball still have a little bit of that forward bend. And so as they go back, they have, if you look at my back, it looks like it's leaning a little bit this way. So they have a little bit of that forward bend. That makes it easier to swing from the inside. People that straighter, they tend to get their back straighter like that. So now as they come down, they swing straighter. They don't swing as much end out. And so when you're looking at these numbers, he's got 15 degrees, the max amount of lean to the right that you would want to have. And he likes to draw the ball. And so you wouldn't change that. You wouldn't take him out of that at all. Upper body bend at impact, he had a lot of rotation, you remember, so he has as he's coming down, he's right at the bottom edge of that upper forward bend at impact, so he's going in like that. Side bend, he's got a ton of side bend because he's 39 degrees open with his shoulders. So as he rotates open like this shoulder just keeps going down, 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 down. So he's got a lot of side bend. That's why that number's red, but it's all because of the rotation. All of his red numbers are due to rotation. I mean, it's not because he's lifting and dropping and swaying and moving or anything like that. It's just that he's got not much turn back and a lot of turn through. And so what happens is that affects those numbers and makes them look funny. So when you just get him to rotate correctly, the right amount in both directions, then those numbers clean up. You can see it clean up pretty easily. So let's go to the last part of this that you look at with each person. And so that would be animation playback. Okay, so okay. So these are where his body's aimed. So plus is open and negative is closed. So he's open. This is how much he's bent. He's forward, positive's forward, negative be backward. You won't see any backwards numbers in that. And the side bend is how much he's this way. Okay, how much tilt he has this way. Upper body, same thing. Side bend 12 degrees, forward bend too much. Turn, he's open, which everybody's open a little bit. And this is the difference between hip turn and shoulder turn. There's 3 degrees difference. 11 to 14 is a difference. That's the X factor that you hear talking about, the separation between upper and lower body. And so as you go to the top of the backswing, you'll see that he's got 50 degrees of separation, okay, between upper and lower body. He's a tall guy, skinny, he's got a real ability to do that. And so you've got to have some sort of stretch in there, like Alvaro Quiros. You guys know him, plays the European Tour from Spain, one of the longest hitters out there. He's got 72 degrees of stretch at the top, okay? And then you've got Angel Cabrera, who's got about 30 degrees of stretch, okay, at the top. But then when you start down, as the hips start to go forward and the shoulders are going back, you increase that stretch. So that you get more stretch, like this, more torque in your body so that it can go faster, so it'll explode faster. So Cabrera goes from 30 to 70. Stupid numbers. I got pictures. I'll show you pictures tomorrow of Quiros at the top, and then Cabrera at the top, and then Cabrera, once he starts down, how they look exactly the same. They're 70 degrees separated. And then they catch up. Then their shoulders catch up. So they've got a ton of speed with that. So as you watch that number, as he starts down, 51. Okay, so he doesn't have much stretch, but he doesn't need much stretch because he's got a lot at the top. You either got to have a lot at the top or you got to create some. One or the other. And then when he comes down to impact, he's catching up. So he's only 16 degrees, which is what you want. It's like slamming the door like that. Let's see. Want to see Luke? I'll tell you what, let's do this girl. This girl's an Italian girl that played college golf at Texas A&M. And she's got about 105 mile an hour clubhead speed. I mean, huge. She just bombs it, hits it forever. Let's see. So you can see her hips first, slow down, shoulders not much later. You know, she's not real separated right there. But then you can see how the hands really, really go a long way and peak very sharply. And so if you look, you can tell there she's got a lot of hand speed, a lot of arm speed coming down. And so if you watch, you look at the numbers, you're going to see her numbers will be real high. She goes, she really goes. So you can see her hips are really fast. Her shoulders are in certainly an LPGA Tour range, and then her hands are unbelievably fast. And that's doesn't mean like this. I mean it's lag. It's just showing how much lag she has. She has unbelievable lag.
How tall is she? Do you know?
She's my height, 5'9", so it's tall for a girl. I'm tall for a girl. Oh, this one was a bad read. So she's not 126 degrees closed. I'd like to see that, 126 degrees closed. It'd be all the way around. All right, let me get somebody else in here. Here's a guy's tour player. So we've got the arm sensor on with him. So you can see it's pretty good. You know, it's almost hips and shoulders almost peak at the same time. The one's right over on top of the other. But other than that, it's pretty good. You know, the hips and the shoulders and the hands and the club. And again, you see, like those hips were actually the third thing to change direction. Let me see if I can show you that. You can't really see it, but the hips, instead of being on top of the line here, going first, were last, but they peaked. They peaked early.
Are you concerned about that?
No, not really. Where I get concerned is the fact that these two are together. Because even though these are leaving later, they're still peaking first. And that's what I want. They're close to first. I don't like them peaking after the shoulders. You can see the peak speeds are hips and shoulders basically right on top of each other.
Even though the transition was...
Even though the transition was arms first, like that. You can see the hips are very slow. If you look at his hip speeds, very slow. You can still see 1.5 transfer, which is good. The shoulders are very slow. The arms are very slow, but he's got lag, so he's got fast hand speed, which gives him fast club speed. But he's not as long as, he's probably tour average guy. He's probably about 298 or 9. So you can see his positions are decent. Posture's good. Pelvis position is good. Now here, this is, remember we said the hips and shoulders are almost together? So you look at impact, the hips are 28 degrees open and the shoulders are 26 degrees open. So they're almost together instead of having that separation that you like with that. And so consequently, because of that, whoops, excuse me, some of these other numbers are not quite as good. Like right here, he's real low inside bend. Pardon? What'd you say?
The mic was open.
Oh, okay. So this is just general, just trying to show you a little bit how we use it. I want to show you one more thing. I want to show you one more thing that we've just started doing. Let's see. Okay, so this is something that we've started doing. Doing a little more research with. So this is what we've done is we've got a sensor on the hand, and then we've got another band for the arm, but it's a smaller band that goes right above the sensor on the hand. So these two sensors are in line with each other. And so you calibrate them right down the middle finger, okay, like that. And that tells you how, when that finger's straight up like that, that gives you 0, okay, for your wrist being this way, or this way, or this way, because that's all we're measuring, are these two movements and these two movements, okay? So,
are you using the sensor that's on the arm?
yeah, and but there's a smaller strap.
Yeah.
That you use,
Yeah.
that you put it around
But
there.
you don't have to do anything. You just calibrate it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you calibrate it, you want to extend that finger down so you can make sure everything's in line with that finger, like that. And so if I took that and just turned it this way, this is 0, ulnar and radial. Even though there's the thumb's out like this, so the thumb's not like that. So that's 0. Okay. So what we've been looking at is, what happens with the hand. So this is 25 degrees is how much the wrist is cupped. Okay. And there's a new deal, hack motion. They do the sensors the same thing. They measure the same things. Hack motion does. But anyway, it's 25 like that. Then you watch this number as it goes to the top. And so now it's 10 degrees this way. Okay, so it goes from here to here. So this is what we've been talking about. All right. And then at impact, it goes to flat. Okay. And it'll, as it gets this way a little bit, that's why it's not 10 degrees like it was at the top, because it has just that little bit of ulnar coming into it, which tends to make that not as bowed as it is at the top like that. If I just take that, you can see that changes that a little bit. And so then you look at this. This is 36 degrees is from where we started, okay, this direction. Okay, so we started like that, and now we're 36 degrees there. It doesn't matter, it's a number. Okay? And so then you'll see that at impact, it's 40. So it goes, that's the droop of the shaft, the uncocking of the wrist, like that. Okay? So we see the wrist action be this way to this, and then this way. You'll see how much it loads at the top. Let's see. So this is 36 degrees positive to 0 at the top. So this is a wedge shot. So as it goes back, it goes from here to here for a distance wedge shot. And you'll see full swings. Let me pull up a full swing. Okay, so you'll go 13 at address to 2, just almost flat at the top, to a little bit of extension at impact. Now 12 is not much. You know, it seems like a lot, but it's half of what you have at address. So this one has a little bit of flip in it. Not much, but a little bit. And then you look at the radial and ulnar. So 39, so 36, let's see. I don't know what happened to that one. 43. Let me try another one. Because you'll see a lot more angle than that. Let me try this one, see what we got. Yeah, that's more what you'll see in a wrist cup. So it goes from 43 positive, or 36 positive this way to 13 negative. So that's that bending of the wrist backwards like this. And then 5, so there's a slight cup in the top, not much, basically flat. And then basically flat at impact. So 36 to 43, you always have that droop like that. Now let me show you some pitch shots. You'll see a big difference. Let's go. Oops, sorry.
Wasn't it just the two underneath the one you previously viewed?
Yeah, that was me though. You want to see a tour player? You don't want to see me. Here's Fratelli pitching. Oop, no, like I said, I lied. Here we go. Here's Fratelli pitching. Okay, so this is a pitch shot. So now you're going to see some differences in numbers. Just how the wrists work. So they start with their hands higher. So he's got more. He's had what we had at impact with the 6-iron. So 43 degrees. Because they sold the club. What happens is there's not enough speed to create that downward angle in your pitch shot. And so they start with it this way, so the club will be sold flat on the ground when they hit it. So the hands are high on pitch shots. They don't set the toe off the ground like they do other shots. And so and then the wrists are a lot more neutral. When you raise your hands up, you take away a lot of the extension in the back of the wrist like that when you raise your hands up like that. And so you'll see a bunch of that in there. And then at the top, you'll see he still doesn't have much hinge. I mean, this is still positive. So he started with 43, now he's got 15, so he has some, but he still doesn't have enough to go negative on the numbers. And so he's like, this would be 0, and he's got a 15. He's about like that on that pitch shot. So that pitch shot doesn't have a lot of hinge to it. And that's what you see. You don't see much hinge in those guys pitching. You can see what it looks like down here. It's pretty good. And then the wrists haven't changed much this way either. So he was -1, now he's -2 as he goes back. So that's basically nothing. His wrist is flat in essence. Now this is where you see impact. You see that club overtaken. You'll see more extension at impact with a pitch shot. You know, you'll start to see that start to happen. You'll start to see some flip in there as it's coming around like this. Not much, as you can see. It doesn't have much in there, but you'll almost always see that be an increased number from the top of the backswing. So he was -2, now he's -5. So he's got a little bit of that give in his wrist with the pitch shots, which would make sense. You know, you're shallowing them out and stuff like that.
Cornering?
Pardon?
Kind of cornering?
Yeah, it's going around It's going around the corner like that. They try to keep it flat. They try to keep it flat, but it's not quite. You can see, like, if I go, the more around I go, the more that number changes, see?
Yeah.
You can see it down. You can see the head of the club moving there. You get more of that as you go around. You'll get more extension after impact. Go do some of Luke's stuff. So this is some of Luke Donald's stuff. So you can see pretty good right there. This is, I guess we'd worked about 6 months there at that point. So you can see the hips first, then the shoulders, then the hands. Very sharp drops there. Slow hips, and then average speed with the hands and arms and the shoulders. Perfect alignment. And this, when you see, sometimes you see this number where it's too bent over at the hips. If a guy has a real developed butt, or gal, if they have a real developed butt, that sensor sits up like this. It sits on top of that shelf instead of being down like that. So it'll look like they're bent too much, but they're really not. Like Luke's not. Luke's got a big butt, so his sensor sits more horizontal than a lot of people. He's got no hip turn back, 28 and 15, all red, and a lot of turn through. And that's, you see that on a lot of these guys. These guys don't turn back very far, but they turn through a bunch. I mean, almost all these guys are open. I mean, really open at impact. Okay, so one last thing. You want to see some swing catalyst stuff? The foot pressure stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Your pressure from left to right and so forth. Back here, it's got some zigs and zags in this one, for sure. What this measures is your right to left horizontal weight transfer, how you use the ground from right to left, from shifting. This measures your torque. So what happens is it measures your feet. As this foot's pushing back, it measures how hard this is pushing back here and how hard this one's pushing back up here. So it measures, that's what creates the torque in your swing, like we talked about. This foot trying to go this way gets a very, very high torque number. The guys that are just move their knees together like that, they'll have real low torque numbers. They won't have real high torque numbers. So this measures how hard you're pushing your foot back this way. That's how it measures torque, and how far you're pushing your foot this way. So this is going this way, this is going this way, like this, and your body's going this way. You know, the opposite of that. And then this measures your vertical. And so he has a real high vertical, but it's after impact. So what happens when you see that, what happens is the guy's put his pressure pushed up off the ground, and so his weight's light, and then he comes down on the ground again, and it's higher vertical after impact than it is before impact, because of it's measuring how hard he landed when he came down after impact. Yeah, so he push it up, and then boom, and then he's come back down. He has more vertical that way than he did going up, is what you'll see with some of those. But what's interesting, so if you look at these traces, what you basically see with these traces is you see two different types. So you see pretty linear traces where the line is real straight, and I'll show you one of those in a minute. Or you see lines that look like, as Cameron McCormick called it, looks like the Sydney Bridge, or the, what's that? I think it's Sydney Bridge, isn't it? The one that's curved, or Sydney Opera House. It looks like Sydney Opera House. So it's heel, toe, back around to the heel. So it goes heel, toe, back around. So the little guys have a lot of heel toe as a rule. Tall guys, because their shoulder turn is steeper, tend to have more linear traces. The guys that go heel toe, the shorter guys, they want to get to the ball of their foot because that's how they push off the ground. You can jump higher off the ball of your foot than you can off the middle of your foot. So if you're going heel, toe, then you're pushing up there, you can jump higher than if I'm just moving in a linear direction from middle of the foot to the middle of the foot. And so short guys need that. They need that jump to help create some more speed. And also because they're shorter, their swings are more horizontal as a rule. Tall guys, like I said, their shoulder turn is steeper on both sides, so they tend to be more like this. Shorter guys tend to be more like that. And so that's what you see. But what's really interesting, I'll show you this. What's really interesting is that with average golfers, when you see that trace, their club almost always follows their trace. A tour player does the opposite. So you see a heel-toe trace in a tour player, his path will be left. Because as he gets out on his toes like this, he doesn't want to shank it. So his arms are moving in closer to him. So he gets this way when he gets out over his toes, his arms are moving in this way. If you get a guy that's linear, a tour player, to reach the ball, his arms will actually go out like that. So, but the average player, they follow their pressure. So wherever it is, their pressure goes. So if they're on the toe, going to their heel, that club's going to be outside in. If they're on their heel, going to their toe, the club's going to be going inside out. And so if you look at, I'll run his, just watch the circle for his trace. So he's setting up at address 5644. So you always see something like that, something around 50-50 to 55 left as far as setup at address. And so that's pretty standard for a tour player. So then you go back. What you'll see here, you'll see a lot of guys, by the time the club gets parallel to the ground, not so with Adria, when the club gets parallel to the ground, you'll see max weight right. So you'll see max weight right, and then everything is going left from that point on, is what you'll see, particularly with long drivers. So they'll load early, and then they're left early, and then they're pushing off the ground early, so they can create more speed. And so if you see him, see where his dot is here? His dot's the farthest right that it's going to get. So his weight's 60-40 right at that point. And then as you keep going, let's see. Sorry.
You make that bigger chuck under this view mode. You can put this pressure and stance screen bigger.
I can, but I'll lose the other stuff.
Okay.
I'll lose the picture, and then I'll lose the other stuff. Let's see.
I'll go on the view mode, the one on the left. Yeah, click on that one.
Okay.
And maybe put this second one. So you can see this much more.
Oh, okay.
clearer.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay. So what you'll see when they get left arm parallel coming down, that's when you see most of their weight left. So they're, well, from that point on, they're pushing backwards. That's where that, remember we were talking about this foot pushing you backwards? That's where they start pushing backwards. So it's, they load it here, then they're moving left, and then they're pushing backwards the rest of the time. That's how they're using the ground to push back this direction. This is pushing this backwards this way, this one's pushing this foot this way. And so you see where his dot is there, okay? And you watch, and then his weight, with him, he never jumps. So he has very little vertical. You saw when we had the charts up there. Very little vertical. And now watch what happens. See him go backwards? That's because that pressure is coming off of that foot. And then you can see, let me go back. Stop, okay. And then here's where he lands. This is where his maximum vertical is right there. That's where he landed after he had jumped off the ground, then come back down on the ground. Okay, so let me show you the numbers. So here's, you'd see that heel toe trace, but you can see the path is 7/10 to the left. Minus, it's minus. It's past left. All those guys that go this way, tour players, they all swing their hands left. If they go down the line, they'll swing their hands right to hit the ball. So I'll show you another one. Okay, let me get back to where I was. No, I don't want that one. What? Compare, right? Huh? Oh, we got it. Okay, good. Well, I want to show these charts again. So here's a guy that's very linear. You see he has very little arc to his weight transfer. He's a good player, tour player. And you can see he has a lot more vertical than Adria does, but not as much torque. And you can see this, the black area up here is PGA Tour range. Okay? So this is PGA, so he's below PGA Tour range with torque using his legs. So you'll see he has a shuttle. He looks like Monty when he swings. He's got a little bit of Monty in him. But he's got quite a bit of push, but it's too late. You can see where this peak is right here is the vertical jump, and he's in the black, but it's right at impact, so he doesn't get the transfer to the power. You want that peak to be before impact. They want to push up to get your body moving fast through impact. So if you wait that long, then it doesn't do you a lot of good. But I just wanted to show you this peak, the trace being lateral, and then here's the path 2.5 degrees inside out. Okay? So I'm going to show you how I do video. I'll do video with him. So what I do with video is I draw the line from the hosel to the bottom of the elbow. And then I draw a line from the top to the bottom of the spine. That gives me his posture. Whoops, that's not a very good line. Let me do a better job. And then I draw a line over here. I draw a line straight up from the ball, straight up on the outside edge of the foot, and then on the outside edge of the right shoulder. And so as he goes back, let's see, I guess that's as big as it's going to get. Okay. So I'm just checking. So he's got the club out a little bit, which I like a little bit. If it's not on plane, I'd prefer it to be out before it goes around. And then you can see it go around, hits the plane right there. So you can see here all of his weight's to the right. He's arm parallel. He is as far right as he's going to get. You see his knees go together. See how the right knee and the left knee are moving together? That's why his torque is low. So he's not really pushing backwards off the ground like that. And then so I look at impact. Where's the head? Where's the body? Where's the hands? I don't like to see anything past this line. I don't like to see the ball, people rolling on the outside of their foot. I like to see the right shoulder a couple of inches inside of this line. That means he's moving the right side forward. From this view, I like to see the right shoulder going at the ball, not above the ball or below the ball. He's a little above the ball there. Whoop. So he looks like Monty, don't you think? He slipped. Yeah, I slipped. Uh-huh. Okay, how about I've got one I want to show you. I'll show you some vertical. Okay, this little girl is this little girl is 16. Just watch her swing. Look at where that vertical line, look how that vertical is down here. So 225% of her weight, way above tour range. And so you see juniors do that a lot. That's how juniors get their power, is that they go down and then push back up. They come up on both toes. You see their hips spinning open. The club is lagging like crazy, swinging inside out like crazy. That's how they play good golf. And for her to get like that, that's one of the highest ever recorded, 225% of her weight like that. No torque at all. Bad right to left. She's out of her posture, in her posture, but she's using the ground up and down a lot like that. But she's been a real good student. She had the club face so open at the top that she couldn't get any speed, so she had about, it was about 6 months ago, she had about 82 miles an hour with a driver. Now she's got 94 miles an hour with a driver. And it's just learning to lag the club a little bit more, get a better impact position. Can strengthen her grip. Club, as you can see, the club face is mega shot. I mean, this is, you want to see a closed club face. This is a closed club face right here. Can you see it? That's closed. But she never hooks it. It lags that son of a gun right down into the ball. And so, you know, you look at that and you go, oh man, you got to fix that. But man, you don't want to fix that. And you can see there the club face is good position. Now, I always tell her pigtail is on plane. You see how her pigtail is on plane? That's very important for you to have your pigtail on plane. Okay, you guys have been patient, and girls, I appreciate it. I know you're tired, but we can stay here and do as much of this as you want. Okay, so questions. You got to have questions to keep me.
How much technology do you use teaching?
Pardon? How many junior?
How often do you use your TrackMan transport, K-Vest? Do you use it like every week?
I have TrackMan on for every lesson. So it's on. And it's recording every shot. I don't always show it. You know, I've got one junior who just doesn't, totally non-analytical kid. I've never shown him his numbers, but they're always there. I can look at them if I want to or whatever. So TrackMan, the way we're set up, we've got 4 camera system, above, face on, behind, down the line, and then we've got TrackMan set up. And then I use K-Vest after they're hitting the ball well. And so when they start hitting the ball well, I figured the only way I can improve them is to improve their efficiency. So then I start measuring what can I do to make their swing more efficient. And so that's how I use K-Vest. We're using it more now with the wrist sensors than we had before. So we're doing like a lot of distance wedge shots, trying to get people to hit the ball down, you know, get their wrist in a flex position. We're using it a lot for pitch shots. So we're using it for everything. K-Vest will trigger now with a 8-yard shot. So we're using it a lot for pitching, using it a lot for, using TrackMan a lot for short game, for pitching and chipping and stuff like that, distance wedges. So we use all that stuff. And it's easy. I just say, I had a girl who plays for Texas, a French girl, Agathe Lanier. And she was a bad wedge player. And I said, Agathe, just take the TrackMan and just have one number launch angle. Every shot under 30. Just get every shot under 30. You know, and that's all she has. That's the only number she sees, you know, is the launch angle number. And that's sort of how I use it for teaching them. If I have the numbers up, I just point out the things I want them to see. I'll say, oh, that's pretty good. All this other stuff is good, but this is what you need to fix right here. Or this is what you need to make better. And so it's not like we did, go over every tile and what the number is and what it should be, but try to pick out the things that jump out. Say, okay, let's work in that direction to make that better. Swing Catalyst is our video, so it's on every shot. So we'll have the Swing Catalyst on, and I look at this stuff over here, but I don't. When we did our training on how to use this, they told us, they said it just measures what they do, not what they're supposed to do. And so that I said, well, why did I buy it? I spent 20 grand on it's telling me what they did instead of what they don't do. So he said, if you have bad torque, no, don't try to fix it. Don't try to fix it. That's just how they get that's how they use the ground. doesn't mean that everybody should be in the black on all of these. So I look at it, and it helps me out with some, but I look at this trace a lot. So like with her trace was toe heel. So we worked a lot to get to the heel, to get her swing where it'd be a little bit more from the inside. And it helped her a lot. And so the swing catalyst is running all the time. But it's not like we go, okay, your foot pressure is not right, so we're going to work on that foot pressure. And then your TrackMan numbers are not right, so we're going to work on that. And your video's not right, so we're going to work on that. It's just, we'll pick out one or two things and say, this is what you need to work on. And I had one little junior who released his club early, couldn't hit it far enough. So I just showed him pictures of Tiger Woods and Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth and Ricky Fowler, and I said, see these guys here right here, I want you to have some lag. I said, lag's the secret to your golf, man. You're going to be good if you get lag. So he goes out and he films, he sends me film all the time. He's a 14-year-old kid, a 13, 14. So, is this better? Is this better? I said, well, you tell me, is it better? Does it look like Tiger Woods yet? Not yet. I said, it's getting better. I said, okay, well, just keep, so that's the only thing he does. He's only working on one thing. And most of my students are working on 2 things or 3 things the most. Never more than that. And just fix the big stuff, then go to the next big stuff, and then the next big stuff. And a lot of times one fixes the other. So you don't really have to. So, any other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
So, try to maybe show it. Talk about the baseball swing with a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
How you can compare to a golf swing. The left hip in the baseball players, it's really going up this way.
Yeah.
Do you like that in the golf swing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an example of your rotation. It's a symbol of your rotation.
Yeah.
So as the more you rotate, the more right side bend you get and the more tilt your hips have, like this. So this hip's up like that, so you have more of that. And
I have one case where I felt that he was so far going this way that his low point was moving back.
yeah, I can see how that could happen.
So it was a bit of an issue coming inside or too shallow.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And a lot of guys don't have the stability to decelerate right there. Particularly really fit guys, they can just keep going. They never put the brakes on to create that kinematic sequence. And so, yeah, I can picture that. Yeah, I like baseball as an analogy. It does a lot of good things because you don't ever see a baseball batter facing this direction, trying to hit the ball to center field this way. They're all open with the bat out in front of them like that. Tennis players, same thing. I don't know about hockey players. I've seen them make this move. I've seen the handle go this way and the head go that way. So I like that. But I know, can you use your feet much in hockey? It seems like I see their foot go back, doesn't it? When they hit that like that, isn't their foot going back like that? Yeah, so that's that torque that we're talking about, how that foot's pushing in that direction all the time. Okay, some other questions, or that's a great comment. You got any students that have problems that you want to ask about? Like if you have somebody that gives you a big issue or anything? Okay.
I have about a junior player dropping a lot and having a lot of side bend. Of course, I understand it's about the vertical
Right.
jump that he gets the energy from, but at what time and how do you fix it normally if a junior player has this too much of a side bend?
Yeah. What happens is it will fix itself. okay? Because what happens is that when they start, their lower body is so much stronger than their upper body. I mean, 3 times as strong, because they've been walking all their life, you know, and this, that, and the other as they're growing up. And so what you see with good juniors is that their grips tend to be a little stronger, and their lower body is so far out in front of their upper body. Their upper body can't close. So that's why you have to get the grip, the club face closed a little bit, so that when they're like this, they're inside out and they're lagging the club because they have no choice, you know, because they're so weak with this part of their body. And so you want that to happen. I mean, that's the only way they can get any power. And it helps build them up for the next stage. So it's fine. You want that. You like that right side bend. It means they're rotated. It means this is opened up a lot. And so it's like a stage of learning. And then when their upper body gets stronger, and really not until, for most of them, until they're almost out of high school, do they get rid of all of it. You know, I call a high school golf swing end-to-out golf swing, inside-out golf swing. You can become a very good player. And we have a lot of players that come to Texas, University of Texas, that are end-to-out because they're high school golfers, you know. And then that's the period of time where they have to learn to get the club back around, but they're strong enough to do that. When they're juniors and growing up and having growth spurts and changes and stuff like that, they're not strong enough to be able to cover the ball and go to get the path to go to the target instead of to the right. And you don't want that. You know, I teach all my juniors to hook it. I want them inside out. I want them hooking the ball. And so when you get to college, we'll take that out, but not before. Makes them longer and stronger. So that's a good thing. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine. Yes, sir.
Earlier you mentioned that for recreational golfers and non-tour golfers, you wanted the path to come from inside to out from the hands as well. But for tour players, you wanted to actually try to cover the ball more, kill the draw or hook.
Right.
Do you have any clear line when you try to teach them away from the draw? Or?
Yeah, I would say, you tell me if you would agree with this, but what I find is that you have sort of stages of development. But after they learn to hit the ball, most golfers slice for whatever reason, grips, or they think they're tired of it going right, so they slice. And so I think you have to teach hook first. And so you strengthen the grips, you get them set underneath the ball, you get the hands in. You can keep the club out, but if the hands in or it crosses the line a little bit, and then they get their swings inside out like that. And if the grip's strong enough, they don't have to use their hands. They can just swing in that direction and the ball will draw. And what I find is that that's the best way to play for most of their life. For most of their life. I would say the best club pro players that I know in the United States are inside out. The top amateurs in our country are inside out. It's only till they get into the tour range do they start getting rid of the curve. You know, because the hook goes farther, you're shallower, so you can hit your driver and your fairway woods and long irons better that way. I mean, it's good. I mean, it's really a good way to play golf. So I don't take it out unless it's aggravated, you know, if it's, 7 or 8 into out, something like that, where they're shanking it or they can't keep it on the golf course, then you start taking some out. But I would never take all of it out. It's just like with her, I would never take all of her into out because she wants to draw. She needs to draw the ball, I think. So it's just a stage of learning. You know, it's just a stage of development, I guess, when you do that. But you get people drawing the ball, most of the time they'll be happy for the rest of their life. That's a good question, though. Any other questions? Anybody else? How do you use your K-vest?
Oh, the same way you do, actually. Hand thing, this is new. I haven't tried it yet. So
Do you have the band?
yeah. So that will be interesting. I should use it more often.
Well, the hard is the is the calibration. If you know how to do that, that makes it where the numbers.
So you do,
Yeah. So you just like
yeah.
with this finger extended down, you try to get the sensor right over the finger, and then this sensor right over that.
Yeah.
And about every 2 or 3 swings you have to check, recalibrate. But that's okay. It doesn't take but a second to recalibrate. Anything else? Want to talk about anything else? I thought tomorrow we'd talk about short game. If you want to, we can talk about anything. But if you don't have suggestions, that's what I've prepared to talk about tomorrow. But if you want to talk about something else, we can talk about whatever you want.
Was there something about how you kind of phase practicing over the season? Is there something like that tomorrow?
I don't how I can tell you how that works, but I didn't have a presentation on that.
So for instance, how Jason practices over the year? How do the weeks alternate?
Yeah, everybody's different in that respect and how they do it, but you're trying to create peaks at the times that are important to them. Like for Jason, he likes Augusta's a hard golf course for him, but the other 3 majors are really good for him because he hits the ball straight. And so everything that we do is real lightweight now. We don't do much. He's playing. He's going to play this week and so forth. And then when he has an off period, they have about 3 weeks off, and then we hit it hard for about a 3-week period of anything we're going to do with the swing. And then after that, then it's just maintenance. We maintain, and then we try and get it to where he's not. So when he goes to the tournaments, he's not getting there on Monday. He's getting there on Tuesday, playing 9 holes Tuesday, playing the Pro-Am Wednesday. Not overworking, so that when he gets to the summer, he's going to be the most refreshed, where his body's not going to be tired. But other people are different, so they want to be ready for Augusta, or they want to be ready for other like the college kids. One girl I teach won the U.S. Amateur this year for the 2nd time, and so for her, in the month before that, she won a LPGA event in Japan as an amateur and shot 17 under to win that tournament. And so with her, because she goes to college, she goes to the University of Alabama, she has a totally different peak that she wants to do. And so for her, schoolwork is important. I don't worry how she plays at school. I said this is time for fitness, so she's working out hard at school, which makes it harder to play good golf because you're sore and you're not as limber and stuff like that. So she's working out hard on her body, and then when she's out of school, that's when her season really starts. That she tries to peak, because for the U.S. Am was always the big tournament she tried to peak for, and so we do a lot of stuff when she's at school. We'll do technical work on the swing, and then when the summer comes, then we'll start doing less technical work, coaching, and then a lot of work on the golf course. So I'll go out on the golf course with her and play with her a lot. So we're out there talking about hitting shots, let's see you go for this pin, not go for that pin, all that sort of thing, giving her rules to live by when she gets on the golf course. But that's all, everybody's sort of different, I've got one guy, Andrew Landry, who's great at the first of the year, but he doesn't work out. I mean, he won't work out. So at the end of the year, he chokes every time. And the web.com last year, he was leading money winner, and then he gets to the last 4 tournaments and ends up finishing 4th on the money list. So that cost him a couple of starts. And then this year he started great. He lost in the playoff at Palm Springs to John Rahm, and then he won the Texas Open in May. And so he's top 30, which is a big deal. If you get in the top 30 is a big deal. And so he's in the top 30 all year until the playoff events. So then he went from 25th to 28th to 30th to 32nd. And he missed out. I mean, that cost him a lot of money to miss that top 30. Because you get top 30 United States, you get all the majors, all the World Golf Championship events, all the invitationals, no cut tournaments with high ranking points. You know, if you get top 30, it changes your life. And so for him to do that, so this year he said he was going to work out, but I don't know. But yeah, that's why I say it'll be interesting to see if he does. If he does, now's the time he needs to do it. You know, he needs to do it now, to where he's got this fall season and then he's got the off season to build whatever strength and the exercise so that he can do his maintenance work the rest of the year. And so we'll see how he does. But everybody's a little different. You know, you have to, they all have different times they want to play really well.
About the sequence, do you have any drills for you know how to start the sequences, but to decelerate? Do you have anything for that?
For deceleration?
For deceleration, that you get these.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we'll have,
What was the question?
do I have any drills? He's talking about the sequence of movement, like the kinematic sequence we were talking about. Do you have any drills for deceleration for that sequence? Or how to start too, right? So a lot of that's done with footwork. Okay, so with I like, as you know, what I like to see is I like to see the backswing started what feels like one piece. It's not, but I like for it to feel like it's one piece. So that the club's outside your hands, the arms are in front of you. So what I like to do that is a little forward press. So you just have a little forward press that puts the pressure on this foot, and then you can start. And you see almost all players have a little trigger that way that puts the pressure on that foot. And then that pushing back creates that backwards motion. And then I always talk about going to the right heel on the backswing and then going to the left ball of the foot on the downswing. And as soon as they hit the ball of the foot, they push backwards. So it's like that. And so that's a big motion. And I always want them to finish flat on that foot. I don't like, if they roll over, they've gone too far. See, so they lose that deceleration. So if their foot, like Jordan Spieth, rolls over on his ankle, he has no deceleration. And so he's just muscle power. That's why he's a short hitter. And so I like to see when they finish, I want them to be flat on that foot. I want that foot flat on the ground so that it's not rolled over, not back on their heels. When they finish, it's flat-footed, that left foot's flat on the ground. And that's really good deceleration right there. I go around and hold their foot on the ground and just get in front of them and have them make a swing, and I'll just plant that foot on the ground. And they really feel deceleration when they do that. And there's some other drills I do. One of them's sort of a goofy drill, but there's we call it a whirly bird drill. So as you come down, you try and get your wrist bent, you know, in the right attitude. You hit the ball, and then you bring your hands back with your wrist still in the same position like this. So you'd hit a ball, you'd go. And so to get this back, you have to decelerate. In other words, so you're coming in, you're going, uh-oh, I've got to put this club back in front of me. And you can hit the ball great. You can be amazed how well you can hit the ball doing that. But you go down, boom, just like that. And you can always do drawbacks, put the ball on a tee, have them go down, hit the ball, and then bring the club back as fast as they can. Or just hit it off the tee, like that. You can change. You know, most people that hip peak, it's too late. They don't put the brakes on near fast enough. It's always almost to impact with a lot of people. It's gone. So you have to do some of that with your golfers, and so that's a real good one. Is drawback, is where you hit the ball and then you try to make it go backwards as early as you can, as fast as you can. But going heel, finishing flat-footed on that foot is really, really, really good. You'll see them change that peak in a hurry. That's a good question, though. Yes, sir.
What do you say about wide stance or narrow stance? Who should have it, wide, or is it personal, or what do you say about that?
Well, I think the rule of thumb is the narrower the stance, the easier it is to turn, and the wider the stance it is, the easier it is to shift. Okay, so if you've got a reverse pivoter, you'd want to be wider so that he's got more space over here. If you got somebody whose foot's rolling over, their knees are going forward this way, to stay down on the ball, they're finishing like this, then you need a wider stance in order to get them up to the ball like that. So the wider stance will trigger the upper body, and the smaller stance will trigger the lower body. And so, like, I used to do some drills with Tom Kite, so his swing was always like this, big reverse C, and there, I'll show you some tomorrow maybe, some old swings of him. So we widened him out, got him to hit balls as wide as he could. So the only way he could hit it was with his upper body. And so then his lower body got a lot more stable. He had a lot less hip turn. And then as he came in, his upper body was stacked up over his lower body then, instead of being narrow stance, being so far behind it like that. But if you just keep in mind, narrow increases turn, wide increases shift, I think you can see which people need which when you do that, I think. That was another good question. What are you thinking about? So are they going? Yeah, we'll all need to stretch. I want to see if you remember. Okay, any other questions? Huh?
Do you prefer a draw or a fade, or does it depend on the player?
Depends on the player. I like people that need distance prefer a draw, and people that need control, that have a lot of distance, prefer a fade. So I have this one college player I teach he's got 107 miles an hour with a 7-iron, and so I said, you have to fade the ball. I mean, he's got so much speed, it's crazy. And so if he has any give in that club, then it goes, he's left-handed, so he hits it off the chart. So for him, hitting fades, quiets his hands down, gets the ball to start, more on line and stuff like that. So for him, fade. Most people draw, like that tall girl I showed you that picked up her speed, that was changing to a draw. Getting her more on her heels, so her path was more inside out, so she could draw the ball, because she needed that ball flight for her distance. And so that's sort of what I base it on. I thought Butch did a phenomenal job with Dustin Johnson making him fade the ball. I mean, it changed his whole life, you know, because he's so long. When he was trying to draw the ball, he was never as accurate as he is now. So I thought that was a brilliant move, you know, that he made. Other questions? You know, if you don't ask questions, you have to go outside in the rain, in the cold. And you have to eat reindeer at night too. That's very important. Okay.
Thank you, Chuck,
Enough?
for the day.
Okay.
Big applause.
We'll see you tomorrow.